Sidney wasn't your average serpent. While his brethren slithered through sun-dappled meadows, chasing unsuspecting frogs and plump rodents, Sidney preferred the hushed reverence of the abandoned library. Its dusty shelves were his kingdom, the musty scent of ancient paper his perfume. He spent his days nestled between towering leather-bound tomes, his forked tongue not a weapon, but a delicate tool for turning brittle pages. Here, amongst the forgotten whispers of the past, Sidney dreamt in forgotten languages and devoured forgotten lore. One day, the library's tranquil silence was shattered by a frantic tapping sound. A flustered squirrel, sporting a crimson beret askew and a bulging knapsack bouncing on her tail, tumbled through a broken window, scattering a cascade of autumn leaves in her wake. "Great gnarled oak," she squeaked, adjusting her beret with a flurry of tiny paws. Is this the grand repository of whispering tomes?" Sidney, momentarily startled from his scholarly trance, emerged from behind a towering stack of grimoires. Dust motes danced in the sliver of sunlight that pierced a grime-coated window. "It was," he rasped, his voice a dry rustle against the silence. Though these days, more of a dusty murmur, I'd say. This, he soon learned, was Professor Penelope Periwinkle, a scholar on a desperate quest. Her mission, she explained breathlessly, was to find the legendary Serpent's tongue, an artifact rumored to reside within the library's hallowed halls. It was said to grant the power to understand any language, written or spoken. Penelope's world teetered on the precipice of war, fueled by misunderstandings and misinterpretations of ancient treaties. Only the Serpent's tongue, she believed, could unlock the key to a forgotten scroll, a peace accord that could quell the rising tide of conflict. Sidney scoffed internally. Gifted with languages? He was a scholar, a bookworm content in the company of forgotten words. Yet something about Penelope's fervent plea resonated with him. Perhaps, just perhaps, there was more to him than met the eye, or rather, his forked tongue. Intrigued by the possibility hidden within Penelope's frantic words, Sidney, despite his usual aversion to commotion, agreed to help. Penelope, ever resourceful, scanned the library with a determined glint in her eyes. Spotting a massive, leather-bound tome with iron clasps, a mischievous glint sparked in her squirrel-sized brain. With surprising strength considering her tiny stature and a surprising knowledge of knots, courtesy of years spent deciphering ancient maps, Penelope started to create a makeshift chariot. She lashed sturdy vines found near a broken window to the book's massive frame, fashioning a makeshift harness and a steering contraption from scraps of leather and string she found in her trusty knapsack. Thus began their unlikely adventure. Sidney, surprisingly powerful for his slender frame, pushed the book chariot across the library's dusty floor. Penelope perched atop it like a tiny captain navigating a vast sea of knowledge. Their journey was a comical spectacle, punctuated by mishaps and near disasters. One particularly harrowing episode unfolded when they ventured into a long-forgotten wing of the library. The air hung thick with dust motes, illuminated by the faint glow emanating from a forgotten stained-glass window depicting a celestial dragon. As they navigated the labyrinthine corridor, a seemingly innocuous nudge from Sidney's tail sent a towering stack of tomes tumbling like dominoes. Penelope shrieked as she clung desperately to the makeshift chariot, dodging a barrage of leather-bound projectiles. Sidney, momentarily stunned by the chaos, found himself buried under a mountain of yellowed paper, his forked tongue poking out from a dusty abyss. Just as Penelope was about to start digging her unlikely partner out, a panicked squeaking reached their ears. From the collapsed book pile emerged a tiny gray head, adorned with large, panicked eyes. It was Sidney, surprisingly unharmed, but a little worse for wear. They both burst into laughter, the sound echoing strangely through the silent halls. Another time, their path led them through a darkened alcove, disturbing a colony of slumbering bats. Mistaking Sidney for a wriggling worm, the bats launched into a frantic aerial assault, their leathery wings flapping a hurricane of dust. Penelope, clinging desperately to the makeshift chariot, shrieked with laughter as Sidney, the scholarly serpent, slithered in frantic circles, dodging the bewildered bats. Through it all, a peculiar bond began to form between the bookworm snake and the squirrel scholar. Penelope, despite her initial trepidation, snakes with scales and tongues, found Sidney's bookish wit and surprising strength endearing. Sidney, in turn, discovered a spark of adventure he never knew resided within him. He even found himself enjoying the unexpected thrill of being Penelope's impromptu steed. As they continued their search for the serpent's tongue, their laughter echoed through the dusty halls, a testament to their burgeoning friendship and the absurdity of their unlikely quest. After days of navigating dusty corridors and toppling precarious bookcases, Penelope stumbled upon a barely perceptible crack in the library's aged stone wall. Consulting the cryptic journal, a constant companion in her knapsack, Penelope's eyes widened with excitement. The journal detailed a specific sequence of forgotten words spoken in a long-dead language. With a deep breath, Penelope began to recite the incantation, her voice echoing eerily through the silent chamber. The library seemed to hold its breath, dust motes swirling in the air. As the last word left her lips, a deafening rumble rose from beneath the floorboards. The crack in the wall widened, revealing a hidden chamber bathed in an ethereal glow. Sidney, his scales shimmering with dust motes caught in the light, slithered cautiously towards the entrance. Inside, upon a crumbling pedestal, lay the serpent's tongue, a seemingly unremarkable silver ring adorned with an intricate serpent emblem. Penelope, her heart pounding in her chest, reached for it. But as her fingertips brushed the ring, a jolt of electricity surged through it, sending her flying backwards with a yelp of surprise. Dejected, they were about to turn back, their hopes dashed, when the chamber reverberated with a voice that seemed to originate not from the air, but from within Sidney himself. The voice, deep and resonating, echoed with a power that surprised them both. Perhaps, the voice boomed, the serpent's tongue chooses its bearer, not the other way around. Sidney and Penelope stared at each other in stunned silence. The voice resonated within Sidney once more, a wave of unfamiliar knowledge flooding his mind. He understood the words, their meaning, and the very essence of the language they were spoken in. He was the serpent's tongue. A shimmering aura erupted around him. His dull brown scales gleamed with an iridescent sheen. The gnarled twig he used as a page-turner transformed in his grasp, morphing into a magnificent staff topped with a miniature serpent head mirroring the ring. Sidney, still adapting to his booming voice, spoke again. "The serpent's tongue," he declared, his voice echoing with newfound power, "has chosen me." Penelope, a mix of fear and excitement in her eyes, cautiously placed the ring on the staff. As the ring settled, the library itself seemed to come alive. Glowing symbols flared on the walls, revealing hidden passages and ancient scrolls. With newfound confidence and a mind brimming with knowledge, Sidney deciphered the forgotten language etched on the walls. One particular inscription stood out, a map leading to a hidden chamber within the library, rumored to house the scroll containing the Lost Peace Treaty. Armed with this knowledge and Sidney's newfound abilities, their quest took a dramatic turn. The map guided them through a labyrinth of hidden passages and dusty chambers. They navigated crumbling staircases and dodged precariously balanced bookcases, a testament to the library's forgotten history. The journey was fraught with danger. Cobwebs brushed against Penelope's fur, and hungry spiders darted out from shadowy corners. One particularly treacherous passage required them to cross a narrow, rickety bridge spanning a seemingly bottomless chasm. As Penelope clung precariously to Sidney's newly transformed staff, the bridge groaned under their weight. The once scholarly Serpent, now emboldened by responsibility and the power of the tongue, focused his mind, channeling his strength into the bridge, keeping it from collapsing. Finally, after hours of perilous navigation, they reached the hidden chamber. The air hung heavy with an ancient scent, and dust motes danced in the faint glow emanating from a single flickering torch. Nestled on a dusty pedestal lay a scroll, its parchment brittle and yellowed with age. Sidney, using his newfound gift of languages, deciphered the scroll with practiced ease. It was the Lost Peace Treaty, a beacon of hope in a world teetering on the brink of war. But their elation was short-lived. A rumbling sound echoed through the chamber, followed by the faint glow of torches approaching. It seemed they weren't alone.